Hey, what's going on? Eric Ortina here. So we got Henry Cuellar in the studio today. Henry is an ELR shooter, F-class shooter, hunter, and a little bit of bench press. So anyway, we're going to talk to him. He is the mainly ELR. What was it, Rookie of the Year or something?
Rookie of the Year last year at Spirit Point. Spirit Point's kind of the reigning season. I'll probably say, other than Kings, probably the biggest shoot. They shoot monthly out there. They get good turnout, 50 to 70 shooters or so. A lot of fun, heavy, light class as well. So it was good. I got plugged in with a good group of guys and kind of jumped head first.
So when you say good group of guys, who are you talking about? I see your cap there.
Yeah, I shoot with Team GPG. So I got plugged in with Paul. I think the way that it all came out, I said, Speedy, I think I want to build an ELR gun. I want one of those big, bad, loud guns. And he said, all right, you got to first start with the stock, talk to Manners. Anyway, Speedy put me in contact with them and said, they said, Paul's your guy. He's the guy that takes all the orders for ELR lights, 2.0s, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, little did I know that me and him about a month later started shooting together. He gave me like a little class, came down and we shot together. And then, asked me to be on his team and then shot with him a little bit and then asked me to be his partner. So it evolved quickly, but learned a lot. He's got a very good system. Paul has got, obviously he's been doing it for a while. Has shot TR, the U.S. rifle team, I think 2 or 3 worlds, I think.
Yeah, Paul shot TR for a long time. Actually, like, come to think about it, like a lot of the F-class guys went to ELR. We're talking Paul Phillips, Dan Paul Label. Who were the other ones?
Obviously the ballistics.
Litz. Who was the other one? Derek Rogers.
Yep. He was also with Paul, I think, on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of. There's been a lot of F-class guys that have went to ELR and been very successful at it.
Yeah. I think if you're successful as one and you just put in your time, you'll be successful at another. There's obviously similarities to it. A little bit of a different game, but if you can shoot and you're willing to work at it, you'll do fairly good.
Well, it's typically it's not just F-class. I mean, that's kind of like the original guys that I started seeing going to ELR were from F-class, but then of course you had you talk about Manners.
Tom.
Them guys, they shoot in. God, I'm blanking out right now. He shoots for Manners. I've had him on the show.
Robert Brentley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brentley. I'm sorry, Rob. But anyway, so
phenomenal shooters in that little group of guys. I mean, obviously Manners is big in it. He's been a big impact or a big contributor to the Kings, to the rules, to the stocks. Paul works closely with them. Came up with the ELR Heavy 2.0 and the ELR Light, and I think they're working on something else like a ELR Light 2.0. So all those guys are there, and then, like you said, have probably shot some F-class at some point, and
Well, it's like you said, it's if you're good at one sport, you're probably gonna do well at another,
right.
And especially shooting sports.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's all about the drive. Now, having said that, you didn't have a shooting background, right?
No, I started off hunting, and that's kind of how I got plugged in with Speedy. I wanted to be able to shoot. I wanted to be able to get to a shoot. I've been blessed that I can go to some bigger hunts. I've hunted, and not to sound conceited, but I think I've hunted all continents. So I want to be able to get to a hunt that I trained, like physically trained for, spend some money, and the last thing I had to worry about was the shot, because typically that's where people kind of blank out on. I wanted my trouble to be like, did I work out enough? Are my legs up to it? Is my lower back going to hold up to the bag? Am I going to be able to eat, 10 days worth of food? Never did I want it to be the shot. So I got plugged in with Speedy. he built me my first rifle. I think it was 2016ish. So fairly, him being down here, built me a 3.3 at Lapua. And then, obviously, from then he's probably built me like 13 rifles. I think I got 13 of his rifles.
The 330 at Lapua, was that for hunting?
It wasn't. So originally I asked him to build me a hunting rifle and then to build me an ELR rifle. I wanted to be able to shoot. I want to get really good at shooting 1,000 and in. So he that's the first one I got. So I started shooting some ELR, local ELR. He plugged me in with Clark Kernot, like Ed Connors, a couple of the local buddies, a couple of my local buddies. We worked on a reamer, Ed's reamer actually. So that's kind of where it all started. I wanted to be really good at hunting. I wanted to be able to be confident that if I did everything when it got to the it moment, I was going to be able to do it.
So you talk about hunting. I used to hunt. That's literally what brought me here.
Right? I think that's how
what did you hunt?
So I started. So I'm actually originally from Mexico City. I was born in Mexico City. Came here when I was about 8 years old. So my family, they're not gun people. They're not hunters at all. Like zero. They're just Mexico City folks. But for some reason, I had this itch, and I've always been interested in it. I used to like going shooting BB guns, even though I would like hide the BB gun in the backyard. But so I just had an itch. So I turned 18. Got my first rifle, Academy. It was a Remington 710 Express. It was like $300, and it came with like scope, everything. I got on the classifieds on the newspaper and found like a 54-acre lease on Pipe Creek, Texas. So I shot, put a feeder, did the whole thing. I got a deer. But then when I got the deer, I realized I didn't even know what to do with it. So like I was by myself. I carried it like in the back of my truck. Carried it in the back of my truck. Went to Shots Meat Market, and I said, "Hey guys, I don't know what to do."
Did you at least field dress it?
No, nothing. I didn't even know how to do that. Honest to God, it was heavy. It was probably, I don't know, 140 pounds. So I was like trying to pick it up by myself in the back of the truck because I didn't even field dress it. So took it to them, and they're like, "All right, come here, let me show you." So that obviously snowballed into now I got my Super 10 Slam North America. I am one animal actually away from my World Capra Slam, which is the goats of the world, like the ibexes and whatnot. And I'm about close to 2/3 on my North American 29. So it like evolved from not knowing absolutely anything to just an addiction. So, but that was kind of like 2006 when it kind of started. I was young. I was 18 years old. And so about, like I said, 15, 16, I started doing some bigger stuff. I went to Africa like 09 and stuff, but I started doing some stuff that I realized that I needed to shoot from mountain to mountain, or I needed to be able to shoot at bigger angles. And, you go 10 days living in a tent and, eating dehydrated food and training and just beating yourself up over the hunt. And it was going to come down to one moment. And yeah, I love the hunt. A lot of people say, it's just about the hunt, it's about the experience. I love it. There's nothing, when I go to these countries, I like to see their, eat their food, see the country, see the religion, see everything. I am about the hunt, but it's with a purpose, and I'm very purpose driven. So when I get there, I want to be successful. Yeah. I don't want to blank out. So, started looking into, better rifles, learning how to shoot at long distance, and got plugged in with Speedy, and he took me under his wing. And from that, now I own a lathe. I bought his spare lathe. Yeah, exactly. I got 13 rifle. I mean, I just went deep into all that, but it all originally started with hunting.
Yeah. Well, it's got to start somewhere for everyone, right? So, man, so you've hunted a lot. Like that's that's something that I started with, mainly whitetail hogs, javelinas. I had a 10,000 acre lease in Freer, which, if you know South Texas, that's where the big deer
Magic
are.
Triangle right there. Yeah. Emeryville, Freer, that's a good area, and they get some big deer.
And so I had my fair share of looking at big deer. And, you know, it's, it was strange being on that lease because you see big deer all day long. And at that point, it becomes, well, these are all big. I want to get the biggest of the bunch, you
Absolutely.
know, and then it wasn't for me. You know, I had it for 1 year and I'm like, I'm done. But I loved taking out the hogs. And so I said, okay, I like to shoot more than I like to hunt.
Right.
So let me just go shoot. And then the hunt became too easy. You know, once I got really good at shooting, I mean, in Texas, we hunt from deer blinds at 100 yards.
100 yards, yeah.
And it just became, I would, you know, whenever I wanted to take an animal, I wasn't even nervous. It was like, okay, I'm going to just put it right there, squeeze the trigger, it'd go down, and that's it. So I wasn't excited anymore. And I said, all right, time to give it up and go do something else. And I started going to F class and started getting my ass handed to me. And I said, okay, this is where I want to be. I want to get better. And the rest is history, as they say.
Well, and if you ask some of my buddies, they'll tell you I don't necessarily deer hunt Texas a lot, you know, whitetail deer a lot for that reason. It got to the point, like I've experienced some cool stuff. I've gotten to see some countries and awesome mountains, and, you know, we're going for 10 days and stuff, that just going and sitting in the blind and you know, waiting for the feeder to go off and seeing the deer come in. I was like, I don't know that this is what I like to do only. So that's kind of what I started kind of chasing what I could elsewhere. I love that challenge, but, you know, they joke around and say I'm a Viking because I like to go whatever, you know, country, whatever place, go conquer and bring something back home.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough, man. Especially when you have like a, what do they call it, Grand Slam?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to check off every single one of those animals. Like, you can't get 2 or 3 of the same. It doesn't count. You gotta get
you gotta have one
species.
of each. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some of them are hard because it's become mainstream. And some of the animal, like my sheeps, when I got a stone sheep, if, you know, the year after that, they're probably in 2-3 years, they're going to be double what I paid for them.
Mm.
They became like the cool, young guy in shape animal. And some of the animals just become unaffordable or just unreachable. And so I guess going back a little bit on 2016-ish, 17 or so, the 6.5 PRC had just come out. So I talked to Speedy and I said, Speedy, I need you to, I like a 6.5 PRC. Let's try one of those out. I'm going on this caribou hunt with one of my buddies. He actually runs a lot of the stuff for Kuyu. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kuyu. It's a hunting brand. It's pretty popular. Most of the guys, you've probably seen their camel at some of the shoots and stuff, but
probably.
Anyway, Justin Schaefer, it's a good buddy of mine. He runs like the outfitters and all that kind of stuff. So he says, come hunt with me. So I'd hunted caribou with him, and lo and behold, George Garner was going to be out there. And I was like, okay. He's like, you can meet him. He's a good buddy of mine because Justin, you know, shot a lot of competitions, shot, sniper competitions. He was a sniper instructor, you know, a bad dude. And so anyway, I met George out there, and, you know, we plugged it in. But that gun was awesome. I said, hey, I like this 6.5 PRC. But at that time, it was so new. Like Speedy, I forgot who he got the reamer from, like either the Hornady guys directly or maybe even George himself, or I forgot what it was, but it had just come out. So anyway, I go take one. I meet the guy who kind of developed the round. And I was like, all right, I like this long range stuff. Yeah, I took the animal like at 656 yards. Like, okay, this is exactly what I needed. I got good at shooting long distance. This is a good gun, and I said, all right, I'm doing this.
Yeah. No, that's, I don't know. It's one of those long-term goals, right? Like having like a Grand Slam, right? It's not just one hunt. It's a series of hunts.
Absolutely.
And once you conquer one of them, it's not over. It's like, okay, on to the next one.
Right.
So what is it like when you finally complete one of these?
So the Super 10 Slam was the first one I probably did. The Super 10 Slam is, there's 10 categories of species in North America, like the deer category. There's obviously mule deer, a whitetail, a coos deer, blacktail deer, etc. Right? the elk. There's Roosevelt. There is, Rocky Mountains. Same thing with moose. There's a Canadian, there's a Shiras, and there's a Yukon, Alaskan Yukon, right? So anyway, there's all these categories, and you got to be able to take one from each one of them, like one moose, one elk, one deer, one cat. So once you take them all, you get some of the hard ones like the goats or the sheep, even the bovine. So you either got to take a muskox or you got to take a American bison. So some of these places are hard. Some of these animals are hard to find because they're not everywhere. So you got to like special draw a tag, or you got to, either buy a governors or private land or stuff like that. But anyway, once you get to the 10, you're like, what do I do? Like I got one out of each. Yeah. North America 29 is going to take you decades. It's a lifelong challenge. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go, because I'm, like I mentioned, I'm goal oriented. I got to have something that I strive.
Now those 10 count for the 29, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Good.
I was like whitetail.
I want to make sure.
Yeah. They don't start all over. No, you keep them there, but like whitetail, I've taken many whitetail. Mule deer, I've taken many mule deer. So you just got to have one of each, right, going towards it. But then once you finish it, it's kind of like, yeah, I did it. And then it's like, oh man, I've been going after this for a while. What do I do now? So, and you're like, okay, let's go get capras of the world. So like the ibexes in New Zealand, or ibexes in Spain and all that kind of stuff. And you get 12 of those species from the world. You got to go to tentatively 12 different countries, or, like Spain has a few that you can get. But, the point is to go. I can tell you, like, I look at an animal on my wall and I'm like, yeah, that's my buddy Wes. Did it with him, or, I did this one with with Justin, or with this.
Yeah, they're memories, right? Most people think of it just as a trophy. They're memories. No, it's and I have a deer. I have one. I'll show you my trophy room when we're done here. I have one mule deer, and the reason it's up there on my wall is because that was literally when I gave up hunting. I was like, after I shot it, 360 something yards, I had gotten ready, I prepared, and when I shot it, I was excited, and I was like, now what? Like, it just, and I said, all right, I'm gonna hang this one on the wall, and then I'm just gonna go do something else, and and so that's on the wall. It's kind of like my deciding line. That's kind of the transition line from hunting into shooting. And I dare you to find a trophy on my wall from shooting. There's nothing on the wall.
It's too many.
It's not that. I don't know what it is. I just never. They're all in a box somewhere. It's all in the moment, and we make sure that when we win, as a team, we go and celebrate, and we take pictures and stuff. And to me, that's a trophy, right? Right. The memory. But yeah, the memories. But I don't have any trophies on the wall. I don't have anything. They're all in the box somewhere, and the ones that have meant a lot to me, like when I won the Southwest Nationals, I gave that to Speedy because
I see it all the time.
Because he was instrumental in my development. Not that one match, but my development as a shooter. And but anyway, so yeah, it's cool stuff, man. Memories. I've learned the older I get, I realize that memories is where it's all at.
Absolutely, I do it. The trophy just takes me back to the place of where I did it and who I did it with. That's really all it is. It's cool to see it. They're neat looking, but who I did it with and where I did it.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. So that's your hunting. That's pretty. We can probably talk days about that stuff.
I love it. I could talk to you years about that stuff. I love it. If I could go hunt every single weekend instead of shooting a match, I would.
Yeah,
but it's just not feasible.
All right, well, let's talk about ELR, because that's a whole another big chapter in your life. It started not that long ago, but you've already kind of made a big splash in that sport.
Realistically, it started last year. The first true match. I mean, I shot at Pearsall. Remember at Foxtrot when they had like a mile shoots and stuff like that. I shot some of the local stuff, but not a real match. My first real shoot was March of last year at Spear Point. That's when Applied Ballistics was there. They're doing PDMs. That's like the first inaugural shoot of the year. That was my first true ELR match. I shot the rookie class in that match, which I know sometimes you hear rookie and you're like, well, you're shooting against rookies that haven't really shot. Let me tell you. Look.
Well, that's the point, right? Like we were discussing earlier. These rookies are freaking world champions in a different sport.
100%. Absolutely. All these guys are shooters. Like the guy that I kind of went back and forth, phenomenal shooter. I believe he owns a gun shop. Like he's not a rookie to shooting by any means.
Yeah, he's just a rookie to the sport.
He's a rookie to the sport, but he's a stud.
Yeah. He's a rookie to the discipline. Not to the sport.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. You're right. To that discipline. But it was weird because, so let me kind of break you down how spear point works. Spear point, you get random draw, right? Which is a whole nother thing that we'll talk about soon, the whole random draw. But all the regular ELR light guys would shoot first, like your normal guys, and all the rookies got thrown at the end of it.
Oh.
so if there was 45, regular ELR guys, they would randomize their shoots, and they would shoot first. And then not until number 50 was done that the rookies start.
Oh man.
So and people don't realize maybe that the way the ELR works, but the wind, it's really, really, really calm at 7:30, 8 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean that's when I typically do my testing because most people get up early to go test because the wind is calmer.
It's calm. And I'll tell you, the wind blows like crazy in Kansas. Like when it blows, it blows. Mm-hmm. So come 1 o'clock, it's 25 miles an hour. So I was still able to, there's a couple times I still placed top 3 overall, even with shooting at, after everybody shot. And everybody's just focused on the wind. It's like, well, you got crappy wind, right? Yeah, but it's more than that because, so like if you're shooting third, the target's freshly painted. So if I'm your spotter, you shoot, and then I see the impact on the target. I'm like, hey, dude, you're hanging up, on the top right corner. Obviously, I won't say that. It'll be a lot quicker. It would be a very, very, and this goes back to the whole Paul. Paul has a very strict communication, brought obviously from the U.S. rifle team. He probably will tell you 5 words, and 5 words only, and then you're making your next shot. So anyway, but I can see that top shot and be like, all right, give me half left, half low, send it, right? Because I can see the impact. But after 50 people have blasted that target, that target's gray. You can kind of see a little bit of a splash. You can see the way that the plate will move, but it's not the same. So not only is it the wind, but now it's the target.
Yeah. Then
furthermore, at 1 o'clock, like you obviously shoot a lot of 1,000 yards, and there's bad mirage.
Oh yeah.
Towards the last relay. Imagine that at 2,500 yards at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So your targets, it's literally moving a foot up, a foot down, a foot left, a foot right. You know what I'm saying? Or more than that.
So before we go into the competition, can we talk about how you actually prepare, like leading up to because there's a lot of preparation in there. So tell me about how you prepare for a match of this magnitude. This was your first big match. How did you prepare?
Yeah. Preparation for my first ELR, not only spear point, was I need to get all the gear because the gear that I had, the gear that I was used to was probably not going to work. So, they shoot with an elevator in the back, right? To adjust for the extreme, distances, because at, 25, 3,000 yards, if you got just something as simple as, 7, 8 degrees, it starts changing a lot. So we played with the elevator. I got, the right bipod. I got all the right gear. Had the rifles, put together. But here became the new challenge for me. So on my heavy gun, I have an 18-inch offset on my scope because we ended up going.
What do you mean by offset? Like this?
So I have an 80 MOA rail on my gun to allow me. So my zero is 18 inches high, or like 17 3/4 at 100 yards.
I see.
So what that allowed me, my true zero, would be like at 800-900 yards, right? Which what allowed me to, at King of 2 Mile, to to have true 128 plus 18 MOA on my scope. So I could dial for 140 MOA. So in a at Raton of elevation and conditions and stuff, I could almost get to or right at 2 miles with true dial and maybe some holdover with my reticle. So there was some new stuff that I started learning. But again, the blessing I had was having Paul, because at that point, aside everything he's done for through FTR, F class, Palma, and all that kind of stuff, he had already been with Applied Ballistics for a couple of years. They won 16. He won 16, and then they won 17. So he had been plugged in with some guys that had a lot of knowledge plus the knowledge he had. So when we got to the team, I realized that he had a way to talk. He had a way to set up guns. He had a way to do ballistics. Like when we get to a big match, we run 3 solvers. And I think he might have mentioned that to you, but we run my Kestrel, his Kestrel. Then we run analytics on our computer. Sometimes we even run the app, just Applied Ballistics app on our phone, just to double check, make sure nothing's off, make sure that nobody's got a target speed accidentally on one of the targets. Because automatically it typically puts you about 2 miles an hour of target speed movement by default. So if you don't catch that on the Kestrel, then your solver is going to be off. So anyway, we just double, triple check. So before we did that, we had probably a couple of good practice sessions of going over everything. This is how we do it. This is how I recommend it. And obviously his system worked. That's why he's such a good teacher, because he's experienced. He's won at a high level, multiple deals, but he's got the system to where if you just listen and plug in, you're going to do good, right? If you can shoot and you're able to set your ego aside and be like, well, I'm this guy and I've shot this, or I've hunted this, or I've done that, and just listen and learn, you're going to do good because you can already shoot. So anyway, I flew out there, which was a whole nother challenge because
flying with guns, not only guns, these things are massive.
Massive. So you can't fly with, obviously there are certain cases that will hold that gun. Remember, so I think my gun's 5'10". It's, almost 6 foot long. So there's not a case for that. And it's obviously heavy because you got your scope in this, the weights have varied. But like for there, it doesn't have to be 40. So you can have a little bit, and if you're going to have a king gun, you can probably weigh it down a little bit by 2-3 extra pounds, but you're never going to be 50 pounds, right? So it's not easy to travel with that. So you break the gun down. So you got to bring a vise to be able to put the gun back together. You got to bring your tools and everything. Then you got to, go with a pretty heavy, bag, because the recoil on that will move your setup a lot. So you got to travel with that. You got to travel with the ammo. You got to worry about the weight of ammo because, and don't quote me on this, but it's like
11 pounds.
11 pounds, exactly.
Yeah.
So those,
I think it's like 5.5 kilograms or something like that.
Right, but
11 pounds.
And that kind of typically applies when you're going abroad. I know that it's an airline requirement, but I mean, if you take 40 shots for 416 Barrett shots and then 40 33XC shots, you're over that limit already. Yeah. So you're like, I'm gonna do it, but hopefully it gets there. Or we never had an issue where we get there and somebody took our ammo out of there. But there's a lot of challenges that just traveling with the size of guns, the weights, like you're going with a few extra bags, and some guys just drive it. I'm not a driver guy. I can't drive for 16, 17, 18 hours. And the one challenge with ELR is where you're doing it at, because you can't shoot 2 miles everywhere.
Yeah, you can't go to downtown Austin and shoot 2 miles.
Absolutely not. You may be able to get 150 there, but yeah, you're not getting 3,000-4,000 yards. Yeah. So the places where you do that, you got to go to like South Dakota, Sand Creek. You got to go to Raton, New Mexico. You got to go to Kansas.
Yeah.
So you got to go to these places where they have the place where you can stretch it out. So 15-hour drives typically. That's about the average. So I'm flying.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to travel with all that. But anyway, so when you get there, it's now it's on. We got to like put all the guns together. And I'm fairly versed. I've been reloading since 2006 time. So help some of the guys that were kind of new in the team, putting their guns together, torquing everything down, putting the scopes on, doing all that kind of stuff, and enough time to get, all the ballistics for the next day tomorrow. Because that's when everything that we've kind of learned from Paul and going over the actual talk, the communication, the everything actually comes into play, the actual shooting. So all that stuff happens before we even fire a single shot at any competition. So we get there, it's super cold. Applied ballistics truck is there, trying to get PDMs. There was a lot of guys. It was neat, but that's kind of where the whole team dynamic happened. And said, all right, whoever's shooting, we'll stay in the car, stay warm. We're going to set up the guns. We're going to set up, bring everything to the line, and we're going to let you know when your time's up, and you're going to come warm, relaxed, come to the line, set up, get comfortable with it, just be ready to shoot. We're going to communicate. And that's what's cool about ELR, because it's hard to be a one-man show. You need a team. You truly need a team. You need them to help you set up. You need them to help you carry guns. You need a good spotter, somebody that does the ballistics good, somebody that can spot, somebody that can see, and can give you corrections, because it all happens quickly. A lot of people will say, we look at the conditions and we look at the trees and look at the grass that's moving. And yeah, that happens before you get your first shot out, right? But when you're shooting, obviously me coming from a little bit of F class, 5 seconds, your next shot's off. Like you shoot, you reload, you wait for your call, you wait for the correction, and you're shooting again quickly. So in that time, once you fired your first shot, your next correction is based off your last shot.
Right.
You don't necessarily have time to look at the grass or see what the tree's doing. You see a little mirage, but your next shot, the correction is going to come off your last shot.
Yeah. So the last shot is the best indicator what the wind is doing.
100%. It's almost anybody who tells you is like, well, between shots, I looked at the grass and stuff. You don't have time to do that. You shoot. You're reloading, you're getting back on target, you're getting your precision while your spotter's telling you, okay, it's going to be, half target left, 1/4 low, send it. So, and he doesn't have time to be looking at the grass. He's trying to pay attention to mirage. Obviously flat surfaces will give you a running mirage, but typically you're running off your last shot and you're running and gunning.
Yeah, I always call, the first shot is the one where you look at the flags, or I don't know if you guys have flags, but you look at the terrain, you look at the mirage, you look at every indicator possible for the first shot.
Absolutely.
That's the absolute win call.
100%.
And then after that, it's all relative.
Yeah, all goes
based to the previous shot.
There is zero tree looking and grass and any of that kind of stuff, because you're running and gunning. Because, a little bit of wind, a mile an hour can get you 5 feet off.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? 1 mile hour difference or a missed call on 1 mile an hour will be 5 feet, at a mile.
Yeah.
So, that was obviously new to me.
Now, so, obviously wind reading, just like, seems like any other shooting sport, is key, right?
Yep.
How do you guys establish the original wind call?
That's where me and Paul did fairly good at. Obviously he's been doing it for a little longer than I have, but we would sit there and literally look at everything. We'd look for, the hay bales and look on top of that, see where the mirage was running, see what the actual flag, because we don't have flags downrange, but we always have a U.S. flag, where we're shooting at. So we would look at that flag and see what that was doing. We look at, our Kestrel. We actually run the Kestrel and see what that wind is doing.
Do you guys set up the Kestrel weather station type of thing, or just manually?
We did
handheld?
some, but we typically did it by hand. It's just easier to change and
so what type of devices are you guys allowed to have on the firing line? Can you have anything? Can you have a wind zero?
Well, there was wind zeros at the shoots towards the end. but on the line, you cannot have a win zero. So you can't, put a win zero 1,000 yards away and then be like, okay, this is exactly what it's doing.
Well, not 1,000 yards away, but maybe behind you.
You can have it, but not while you're shooting.
There
were some guys that would get up in a Connex and go set up the win zero, which is smart, and then would get true numbers, true directions, all that kind of stuff. We didn't do that. We kind of used Kestrel, we'll hold it, and we had some surveyor's tape. We looked at the flag, we looked at the mirage, we looked at conditions to the best of our abilities to come up with that initial call. And obviously, as you know, like the first round impact is worth so much.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people will probably argue that it probably weighs too much. But it counts so much because the multiplier is so large that you want to have that first one. It's not like, well, we'll just send it out there and see where the next one's going to be.
What do you think about that? How do you feel about the multipliers and the fact that the first shot is worth, like you said, so much?
So much. Man, that's a hard one because I love the sport, so I don't want to bash it, but there's in my opinion, there's some things that have to change. And they've been trying to talk about it even in this off season. Like, do we go with the King of 1 Mile? Do we do our own scoring, do our own multiplier? But basically, if you hit a 1 round impact at, let's just say you hit one at 2,500 yards and somebody hits 3 rounds at 1,600 yards. Do the math real quick. 25.
So 2,500. Let's do the math. So 2,500 would be times 5, right?
That's 5.
Okay, so that's 12,500.
12,500 points, right? So this person hit 3 times at 1,500 or 1,600. Your first target.
1,600. So that'd be 1,600 times 5.
But let's not give him a first round impact. Let's say he just hit 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so that would be 1,600 times. What is that? Times 16? No. How does that?
No.
I already see.
No, so
that's how confusing
it is. Confusing. And that's and here's the biggest challenge with.
Okay, so before we get started, or before we try to do the math, explain the scoring system.
So here comes the problem. There is not a one scoring system across ELR. Absolutely not. So King will do it one way. King will have, you'll shoot King or let's say spear point for that matter, and it will give you their score, and next to your score will say King score, and it'll be like 113,000 points because they have their own multiplier. So spear point will do it one way, right? Then King will do it a separate way, and this King will have 40-pound minimums. And then, spear point may be 50 pounds. So the one challenge that we have, and I feel like and again, I'm new to it. I've been there for a year. So I know some people say, well, what can you say? You've only started, but it's already been since, 2015, 2016. We're at 2024. I would think by now there is a rule book, a unified organization that says, hey, this is standard. Like one shoot can have 48 by 48s starting at 2,500 yards, but this other place may not start them until 3,000 yards, and you may be shooting at 36 by 36 targets. This one's may be at 40. So it's not ever really apples to apples between shoot to shoot, location to location.
But the one of the scoring systems, I guess, or is the scoring system the same? So the scoring system is if they have five targets, or you get 5 shots at, let's say, at 2,000 yards,
right?
You get 5 shots,
right?
The first shot, if you get an impact, it is distance times 5. The second shot is distance times 4, distance times 3, distance times 2, distance times 1.
That's right? One of them. Recently, they've talked about just going like distance. So distance plus 5, distance plus 4, distance plus 3, distance plus 2, distance plus 1. So when instead of winning by 30,000 points, you may win by, 7 points or whatever.
It's like football, just made up points.
Yeah. So it's just, it's all over the place. And the targets aren't necessarily yet standardized around. Recently, the March, so ELR season just started. Spear Point was inaugural match in March, and a very good shooter, Josh Silby, he just won King of 2 Mile. I think it was his first time shooting, or just went to go shoot Spear Point. Well, he had a first round impact at 43-44, which to date, I believe, and don't quote me on any of this, I believe was the longest impact in a competition, right? Which beat
that's a long poke, 4,300 yards.
It's a long poke, which, I mean, it's hard to do first, second, third round, whatever it is. It's really hard to do one. Obviously, there's obviously skill involved, but a lot of luck, right? Because if you hit your first one, then you got to figure it out,
right?
But so much changes, so much so that won't hit second, third, fourth, fifth. And
so he only hit once,
my understanding, and it was his first shot. And again, a great. I mean, that's amazing to be able to hit that. There's very little humans, if any, that have done that in a competition, right?
Right.
Because in a competition setting, there's pressure, there's time, there's a lot of stuff. If you sit in your house and just start sending 30 rounds, you're inevitably at some point going to hit it, right?
Right.
But anyway, quickly somebody said, "Oh well, I had the longest impact on there, and I did it without these extra wings that they had put on the target. The wings never came into play because he didn't even hit the wings. And it's not even so much about the problem of the fighting there, anything. It's because it's not standardized. It opens the door for some of this some of this conversation that happens on social media, because one guy may shoot at a 40 by 48 plate, and this guy's shooting at a 60 by 60 or 36 by 36.
Well, I can see where that can be a problem. If you're going to have a sport, and especially if you're going to have records, right? The target should be the same size.
Agreed.
It should be obviously I shoot F class. The target is one size.
Right.
It is for 1,000 yards. It is one MOA, and doesn't matter where you shoot. You can shoot England, you can shoot US, you can shoot any state in the US. They're all going to be, you can go to Canada. It's one MOA, right? So when there's we don't have world records, but in the US, if you set a national record, doesn't matter where you set it, it was
standardized.
Absolutely. Right? Like nobody's going to argue the size of the target or the shape of the target, because we're all shooting at the same target.
Right. Which, and again, in my opinion, it opens up for that discussion. Like, well, he did it at this or he did it at that, because there isn't a set target. Like, we don't have, 25, we shoot 36 by 36 up until 2,500 yards. 2,500 to, 3,200, we shoot 48 by 48s. And then, once you get past that, you shoot 54 by 54. There's not that. There's not, it's common knowledge that the rules at King have changed a little bit, from weights to if bipods are allowed, that they got to be folders, not folders, rear bags, all that kind of stuff. So it has turned off a few people, even good shooters that I've shot with, that are like, it's my gun's good this year, but may not be good next year. Or I bought this bipod to just later find out that these 3 gentlemen that decide the rules just outlawed it. So it's just like, oh crap, like what are we doing? Yeah. So ideally, and I know it's easier said than done, because I don't have the answers. I don't know how to do it all, but ideally, if this is going to legitimize itself as an F class or bench race, there's got to be a governing body, my 2 cents, that sets these rules, sets these target sizes, sets all these standards, so they can kind of be across the board. So it doesn't matter where you shoot, you're shooting that. And I know there's going to be some anomalies that if you go to Canada, you can't take certain military rounds, or same thing in certain countries, Italy or stuff like that. So that's going to change. But at least here, if we're going to be doing this a season or just going after it, standardization may help.
Yeah. Well,
keep people.
As the scoring system we're talking about, I did some math. So if you hit at 1,600 yards, if you hit your third, fourth, and fifth shots, that's 3 + 2 + 1. That's 6. So 1,600 times 6 is 9,600 points.
Right.
So let's say I hit 3 targets at 1,600 yards. My third, my fourth, and my fifth.
Right. Great shots. That's hard.
And then we go to a 2,000, and you hit the first one. That means I got 9,600 points. You got 10,000 points.
I beat you.
You just won, and you only made 1 impact versus my 3 impacts.
Correct. and then here's what happens. That happens often, but it's even more so the further out you get. Like if you make a whatever 2,900 or 2,500 or whatever, the multiplier just it increases.
Well, like that 4,300 yard shot.
That count a lot.
Yeah, that's 4,300 times 5. Over 20,000 points. 12. What is that? 21,500 roughly.
Yeah. You got to shoot a lot of targets to be able to catch that man up.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, again, this is obviously I've never shot it. Paul keeps inviting me to go shoot, but
you should.
I'm afraid I'll like it. But yeah, it's I do hear a lot of this going, and for example, when Norm Harold broke the record in F class, everybody was saying, "Good job, brother. That was amazing." Because we all shoot at the same target. We're all saying, "Yeah, that was amazing." And to this day, it is amazing. Nobody's been able to beat it, even come close, right? So everybody's like, good job, Whereas somebody breaks a record in ELR and there's controversy simply because of and it's not the shooters. Now imagine you're the shooter that just did it, and instead of kind of enjoying the feat of doing that, you're having to fight it or argue online about it, and it's not your fault. It's like, hey, they gave me a target and I hit it.
Yeah.
How is that my fault?
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And same thing for the other people. Anything that there's the divides should be eliminated as much as possible.
100%.
And yeah, obviously, in my assumption was all the targets are the same size. Like they're standardized, but I didn't realize until now that they're not standardized.
It's not. That you can. It's up to the match director. They can put it at whatever. They can make it a larger target. They can add, like we said, wings to the sides just to make it a little bit more friendly, funner for the shooter, because you get a little bit more wind leniency, correct?
Right.
But it opens up for that. I think now it's that would help a lot the sport, just to standardize a lot of the rules. Like from my understanding, F class just came up a couple of weeks ago with an actual rule book, correct?
Well, we've had a rule book. So F class has always been a part of high power. Right. So we had all the high power rules, plus they had a section in F class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they pretty much took that section of F class, put it in its own book, but it's still the same thing. I think it just simplifies it. But other than that, it's still the same thing, you know. But they kind of went through it and revised it and added some rules and removed some of them, which and I'm okay with that. Like they did away with the
Delrin sides.
Love
them.
Yeah, I know, but I came up with that.
I know.
and I'm okay. It's like, hey, as long as we're all doing the same thing, I'm okay with it.
And I think that's what.
And as long as it's not a stupid rule, I don't think it's a stupid rule to have sandbags. It's fine. They were discussing some stupid rules which they did not introduce, which I'm happy. They were talking about how you wouldn't be able to use electronic levels. Well, now the previous rule book had it. Now I don't see it, so I think it's okay to use electronic levels.
Right.
I still don't use electronic levels, but it's just anything that. So anyway, to me, that would be a dumb rule.
Right.
It was a rule. Now it's gone. There were rumors that they were going to not allow, like the BTX, Swarovski BTX,
double I,
the BTX spotting scopes to be used in single competition. So for example, if you're shooting by yourself and, we're allowed to use a spotting scope, and supposedly they were going to do away with or make it a rule to where you couldn't use the BTX. You can use the ATX or the single straight, but not the double.
Right.
Which I don't see how that matters. And again, that was a rumor, and hopefully it stays that way. But they were saying that, hey, they're gonna do away with that. Well, why? Well, so all that to say that I agree with the rules. I'm happy with them. We all have to play by the same rule, and that's it. And I think the Delrin sides, they did away with them, not because of the Delrin sides. It's because they were starting to put, there were some rests out there that had rollers, and they had, and they're like, how do we do away with everything? Well, instead of naming everything, they said, hey, how about we just say sandbag, and that's it. If it's not a sandbag,
cranial.
Now, I'm sure somebody's going to come up with something that it's a sandbag that's pushing the limits, but to me, that's part of the sport. That's part of
innovation.
Innovation. We're trying to shoot the best scores possible, and I think there needs to be some room to allow that for the shooters to experiment and innovate. But at the same time, I understand the need to limit the rules,
Right.
It would be fun, and I know there's not enough room for that, but it would be fun to have an unlimited class in F class just to see what people can come up with.
Just crazy
rail guns and all that. I think that would be interesting. Just
3.38s.
Just to see what the scores would be like if we changed the rifle system. I don't know that it would change that much. I don't know, but it would be interesting.
How much more can you change it? Because just go back 2015. What were the scores at 2015 or 2016 in F class?
Well, they're drastically different. Now I remember 2013 or so, somewhere around there. Hardly anybody was shooting cleans.
Right.
I think Ballard shot the first clean around 2009 or 10. That was the record. It's a 213.
Right.
Which now, if it's calm and you shoot a 213, you're pretty upset at yourself.
Probably not in the top 10.
Oh no!
If you shoot a 213 at Bayou,
and we're talking 1,000 yards,
right,
obviously, but yeah, now if you shoot a 200 with 13, you're going, oh man, I'm really falling behind here.
Yeah,
but that was the record not long ago.
But it's it's just technology and shooters and ability.
Yeah, so I just wonder what it would be like if we could use rail guns.
220s straight.
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know if that would happen, because there's still the wind element, right? So I don't know if it would happen. Obviously, we'd be able to shoot a lot faster.
Right.
We'd be able to, you wouldn't have to hold, if the hold's good and it comes up on X, just send it, But I wonder how much that would change. I wonder how much the scores would change. And I think that would be very interesting to see that.
Allow you to probably go with some magnums without having to reset your whole bag. And
you could use a 300 WSM.
Easy.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
And because the weight would not be an issue, the shifting or any of those issues with a 300. You'd load a 300 WSM with 230s or something and just let it eat,
Yeah. So, and anyway, so I hope that there is at some point the organization that standardized ELR that rules over all and everything instead of being at each individual match. Because right now, Jay Monick, right? He does King of 1 Mile. He does Conquer the Castle. Puts a phenomenal shoot. He should be banking the rules. But somebody needs to do something because, that one would be a little bit different rules, different scoring, different target sizes, different, weight limitations, different, rear bag elevators where you can shoot them at Spear Point, you can't shoot them at King. So if they could just...
Oh, so they're not even allowed at every shoot?
Absolutely not. So at Spear Point, you can shoot an elevator. You can use, bipod, whatever it is. You can use a Phoenix, whatever. At King, you can't. And I think the idea with King was they wanted the bipod to fold for a military reason, right? But you're not carrying a 45-pound military gun.
Wait. Yeah. See, and this is the type of stuff, when I say about the rules have to make sense. Okay. Why do you care about for military purposes? I don't know. Again, I don't know. I'm going to plead ignorance to this topic because I am ignorant, but this is just me from the outside looking in going, really, why do you care about that? How many of these guys are actually going to do this. And if you are going to do this, then you get a foldable bipod, you know?
Correct. Most of us, I'm going to say, and obviously we got some veterans and, you know, but most of us are now civilians that shoot this. We're not trekking anywhere with a 40
Well, is it a requirement to be a veteran?
No, I agree. I don't really know. I'm going to play ignorance with you on this one, but I'm going to say that some of the, like King of Two, some of the guys who are making these calls or military and are influencing.
And that's okay.
Some of those,
you know,
rules.
but you know, they have to also realize this has nothing to do with the military, you know,
100%.
and maybe a lot of this research and development is maybe some of these companies are trying to sell this technology to the government, and they want to use all of you as data points. I don't know.
Maybe there's some out there that have pushed calibers or whatever to for military reasons, but yeah, it's, you know, one of them is allowed in some shoots, one of them isn't in other shoots, and you know, from weight to rear backs to bipods to you know, all of the above, target sizes to, and here's probably the biggest, what I would say would skyrocket the sport mainstream, right? Would be, and Paul's tried to do it. I think there's been some talk about doing it kind of like your V2 shoot, right? Kind of a head to head, because right now the biggest challenge with ELR is if I can bring a quarter-minute gun, phenomenal gun, you know, I can have arguably one of the best spotters, you know, I could be a great shot, have best ballistics, like have everything to do, right? There's this random draw that happens. I get put, you know, 43rd. I'm shooting at 1:00 in the afternoon with 27-mile-an-hour wind, target all shot up, mirage where it's bouncing a target 3 feet one way or the other. And then we have a pretty good shooter with a decent gun or whatever that shoots third, who's got clean target, no wind, no mirage, no nothing. It's really freaking hard for me to beat him. It's really, really hard. So I can have a phenomenal gun, go do all this kind of stuff. Once you get there and you realize you're 43rd, you're like, chances are, you know,
yeah,
it's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's back to, and I understand it's hard you can't have everybody shoot at the same time.
Agreed.
I understand.
Right.
But you know, like in F class, we call it the target roulette, you know, or the relay roulette, because if you're on the wrong relay, you're not going to do well. However, the way they've somewhat managed that is, if you're a high master, you know, then they put you with, and the beauty about F class is you have more than one target. You have 30, 40, 100. 50, 100 targets.
Right.
So you can put up to 100 people on the line at the same time, which in ELR, it's not feasible.
It's not feasible.
But still, like the V2 finale that we do, we put them head to head. And it's not about the aggregate score. It's about knocking each other out, you know,
right.
in the same conditions, same target. So for you guys, I think it'd be fairly easy to do is same target, you shoot, then that guy shoots, and you guys shoot against each other. Well, and then you're only competing against each other because it's the same conditions. You can't compete against somebody that goes even 10 minutes after you because the conditions can change.
It's not apple to apple. Agreed.
Exactly. So that's the only way that it can be apple to apple. But again, I don't know.
Everybody will argue, well, that's how this sport is. You know, stop complaining, stop all that stuff. And I get it. It is how it is right now.
But you get to complain because you won and you're still complaining. Well, now if you had lost, they say, well, he's just bitter. But yeah, you won, so go ahead.
So and I honestly, generally say it with good intentions at heart, because I like it. I mean, they're the biggest, baddest, they're dragsters of cars. You know what I mean? The biggest, baddest, fastest, biggest concussion. You walk up to this line with this massive thing. You feel it's awesome. It's great. You're hitting that very long distance. There's nothing not to like about it. And I think there's still some stuff that could improve to retain shooters and keep people interested, because there's a lot of people that don't have the means to, you know, build a gun and go and, you know, contour the barrel or change this or get another, you know, to get another stock, because now it's not 50 pounds, it's 45. Well, now it's 40. And you know, it's whatever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, sounds and it's a young sport, right? I mean, it didn't start that long ago. I'm sure at some point they're gonna either standardize it or not. I would think they're gonna standardize it. It would be the smart thing to do, just simply for it'll eliminate arguments.
Agreed.
Well, it'll minimize argument.
Agreed. Yeah, they're still gonna be there.
Yeah, I mean, so cartridges. How did you go about selecting a cartridge? I understand, Paul Phillips has big influence. I mean, he's been doing it, so I assume he just kind of copied the blueprint.
Yeah. So I fell right in. Like I said, I think the proper, if you join a team, the proper way to do is listen to who's mentoring you, because nobody wants to waste their time. And they tell you like, hey, do it this way, and you're like, I'm still gonna do it this way. And then like set your ego aside and listen and learn, because you may be a phenomenal shooter. I may be able to squeeze a trigger like nobody's business, but I don't know it all, right? There may be somebody out there that does, and if that person doesn't know, it's a team. Like we got Dan Polev on our team, another world champion, phenomenal machinist. It's been doing it for a long, long time. So with the group, there's a lot of knowledge, right? So that to be said, he has 416 Barrett for the heavy class. It's a good round, allows 550 to go 2950. You can push it a little bit further. If you push a little further, you may get some sticky bolt, but a good round, accurate. And then obviously for the light, the one that dominates everything is the 33XC. He kind of had already set that in place. It's kind of what we all fell in line with, and obviously did good. But those are your two main cartridges. And the heavy, there's been a little bit of wildcats with like the Hellfires, the 416 Hellfire, the 416 Stroker. There's some people that still run like the Shytech, that's still with a 375 Shytech, like Shane and Jacqueline. They beat the crap out of people with the 375 Shytech. They didn't jump up to the 416s, and have done really, really well. But for the most part, everybody's just shooting that 416 Barrett or some sort of walkout of it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I had David Tubb on the show a couple episodes ago, and we talked about his XC, and it's doing pretty good. I mean, it's from what I hear, that's the one. If I was going to go build a light gun, it'd be a XC, because it's winning everything. Yeah,
it's, if you go look at the go to King 1 Mile, I'm going to say 8 or 9 out of the top 10 were 33 XCs.
Yeah,
it's just, it allows a 300 grain bullet with, I'm going to say, very little recoil for my size, but with light recoil, very manageable to go 3150, 3200 feet per second.
Yeah, that's crazy to send a 300 grain bullet at 3,200 feet per second,
and accurately too. It's not like you're just kind of spraying it. You get like half-inch groups. Like when I sit down and truly tune my gun, I get all bullets touching, arguably one hole, single ES, single SDs. So it's a phenomenal round.
What distance?
When it's not 100. Like when I'm low developing, I'll get, but I'll get bullets touching at 300 yards.
Yeah.
It's just inherently accurate round, fast, controllable, and great numbers. Yeah, he did well with that one.
So what's next? Like, I mean, you're already on top of the ELR game. Already done your. Maybe you should do a Grand Slam. You already got your championship in ELR. Maybe you should go become a F class champion and then a bench press champion.
So Speedy's been after me for bench press. He says, if you really want to get good at F class and you want to learn the win, come shoot some bench press. And I always joke with him, because you shoot out 100 yards at 200 yards. I'm like, how much can the actual bullet move? Like I'm just ignorantly and kind of just talking mess, but how much can it really move? I can shoot a little group. And he's like, oh yeah, come on down. So So anyway, he made me buy a rifle. So
he made me buy a rifle. Is that what you tell your wife?
That's what I tell everybody. That's what I tell myself. He made me buy a rifle, which I don't regret. Like I'll get something out of it, right? But I'll continue shooting ELR. I haven't looked at the rankings. You know, we at King of 1 Mile, our team got 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. I got 5th at King of 1 Mile. You know, we did good. I like to play a little bit with some F class. I shoot locally. I've done good locally. In fact, I'll be there tomorrow. But I like to play a little bit with it. I mean, I even with talking with Paul, he's like, all right, I'm going to build a new FTR rifle. So he got a new Bat Nouveau action to build another 308. So we may get him back on board a little bit. And
who's that, Paul?
Paul, yeah,
308.
He can't get
Paul.
Can't
Paul,
get away.
step up to the big leagues and build you an F open rifle.
That's what I told him. He's like, oh, you got a bunch of them. I'll just shoot one of yours. I'm like, as long as you're shooting, I'll bring you. I'll bring you whatever you want. But you play a little bit with it. That's I think that's been near dear to my heart.
Yeah. So I've actually momentarily thought about building a 308 and because it is harder. Right. I mean, it's obviously harder, right? You're shooting off a bipod with a 308, and but it's I don't know. I'm pretty deeply rooted into F open, but I think FTR is pretty tough.
Well, and the thing about FTR is like who won at FTR? Southwest Nationals. They probably shot.
Brad Sauvé. Sorry, Brad, if I'm butchering your name. But not only did he win, he freaking
that's what I'm saying.
Won. He won. He set a new national record at 1,000 yards, 218.
Exactly.
Which to me is freaking impressive with a 308. I mean, it's impressive with an open gun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those are F open scores. So the really good guys, they're shooting F open scores.
Yeah,
all day long.
It's impressive.
Which is it's crazy to think.
Yeah, and Paul's one of those. He can shoot. Like he can shoot.
He was
but just don't tell him I said
that. Yeah, he's good. And so anyway, do a little bit of that. Obviously, go to the Kings, go do all that stuff. I love ELR for that. It's just they're the biggest, baddest, heaviest, craziest. The recoil and the concussion of those guns is awesome. I love it. Continue doing the heck out of that. We're going to go to Conquer the Castle, and we're going to go to Justin Shoot there in Justin Wolf in Kansas. Do obviously the Kings. We're going to do some practice sessions. So continue shooting a lot of ELR. Play a little bit around with some F class, getting Paul back in it, getting Dan Pohl able to come down and shoot with us. So
yeah, Dan, that's another one. Dan's good. I mean, again, those guys they got tired of winning in F class. They went to go try ELR, which is it's fine.
And that's so I got those guys as my teammates.
Yeah,
which is a wealth of knowledge. And then I got like my mentor Speedy.
I wish Derek Rogers would come back. He was a freaking machine, man. He was world champion.
He may shoot. He may shoot. King of One with us.
I'm talking about F class. Well, I mean, just come back to shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We, it would be, and I feel lucky. Obviously, I love it. It's my passion. Hunting, shooting. This is my true passion. I love, God, my kids, shooting. Obviously my wife.
There's a wife in there.
Hey, yeah. I said my wife in there too.
Yeah, my wife.
Dang it.
Family. Yeah. Kids, wife. Yes.
Can you edit that, please?
No, we heard it. Kids, wife.
Yeah. And then shooting / hunting. So it's my true passion. And I'm young and I'm, late 30s. I'm soaking it all in, right?
Yeah.
I got some good guys that I can, pick their brains like you. There's times I'll text you, be like, yo, what's this or what, can you teach me a little bit of wind? The Pauls, the Dans, the Speedies, all those guys. I just feel blessed and lucky.
And it's, you are very well connected, right? Which it's really up to you now. You have the knowledge at your disposal. Now you just have to use it wisely and apply it, because if you're not going to apply, if you're not going to do the work, none of that's going to help you,
right.
And if you're not going to trust it, trust is a big thing, like oftentimes, you get a new shooter and you tell them something and then they go and they ask 8 other people and then they go, well, from asking 8 different people, I concluded that this is going to be how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use something from that guy and a little bit from that guy. That's not how it works, especially if you have someone like Paul Phillips that's helping you. Literally just everything it tells you, do it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tell people. Listen, just do everything they tell you and do it to the best of your abilities. It's either going to work or it's not going to work, but it's you have to use the system. You can't say the system didn't work, or you can't even tweak the system until you try it. Try the system. More likely it's going to work for you because it's working for them. And if it's not working for you, they can tell you, they can pinpoint what the issue is.
Agreed.
But if you're going to go and start just butchering the system from the get-go and modifying it to fit you, you don't have anything, like you don't have a trajectory or enough experience to start changing the system.
To have an opinion.
Just use the system.
Absolutely. If you don't have the experience, you can't have an opinion, right? And these guys that already went through it, and have done it and are willing to share, like, you're for them. There's a wealth of knowledge in there.
Yeah.
Right? You have a question on load, it's there. The barrels, the everything, it's there. You working with Paul, everything ELR, shared it all. Didn't hold anything back. He's truly vested in me winning, because I then turn around and spot for him and call for him and help him win.
Yeah.
So me and him won every shoot we shot together, other than the Kings. Every shoot we shot together except Conquer the Castle.
Mm-hmm.
I think we placed like in the top. Both of us placed in the top 10.
Yeah.
So
you can't win them all. If you could win them all, it'd get boring.
Oh, 100%. But it, obviously his system worked. He's got the system. And he knows it. And that paired with my Speedy background, with everything he's taught me over, almost to the decade or whatever.
In the rifle, years. Right? Like the equipment. We can't discount the equipment. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, you give David Tubb any rifle." No. Or you give Paul Phillips any rifle, or you give whoever you mentioned. No, that's not how it works. You have a capable shooter also has capable equipment.
Right.
It's just, and that's part of what makes them good shooters, that they know what equipment to use and how to use it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's all part of a system.
And I'll tell you this, like, I say, I love Speedy, my mentor. Everything I've learned as far as shooting, reloading, chambering, everything's from Speedy. But for Team GPG, George Garner does everything for Team GPG. His rifles hammered this season, obviously, right?
Right.
So I want to give him credit. I want to give, Tom, because Tom worked with us. Like, hey, we're coming into it. We need some stocks. We've been in line, because I started building it a whole year before I started shooting with him. So, all this stuff, it's just, you got to have the right gear. You got to have the right rifle, the right knowledge, the right support with everything that goes on to be able to do it at that level. You can't do it with just your Bass Pro Shop gun. Just can't do it.
You can't go to Academy and buy the best gun they have.
No, I don't think they got 416 bears.
Yeah. Anyway, it's I don't know, man. It's the same story that I hear from every champion. It's like it's preparation, equipment, and mental game. And the mental game for you, obviously, you all the hunting you've done, it requires mental toughness. But at the same time, once somebody gives you a system and all you have to do is follow it,
100.
It eliminates, or at least minimizes, the processing power that you need mentally to accomplish a championship, because you don't have to worry whether it's going to work or not. You're like, all I got to do is follow the system.
Right.
And having a system is just paramount.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this is probably, and it's probably still my biggest challenge. So I got all these tools. I got all this knowledge. I got the passion. I love it. I want to do it. If it was up to me, I don't go to work on Monday. I'll go shoot on Monday, right? But I'm kind of your average guy, your, next door neighbor that's got 3 kids. Like my son does jujitsu, does football, does basketball. My daughter does volleyball. My oldest daughter, we traveled everywhere nationally. I mean, but like at a national level, I'm sorry, playing volleyball. So I got to juggle that. I still got to try to make it, in business and find the time to shoot. So I'm a good, I wouldn't say example, but like I'm just your average guy that finds a little time here and there, that's got some ability and some connections and some mentors and some teammates and stuff like that it can be done. If you really want it, you listen and you just work at it, you can shoot. You can do it at a high level.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, been there, done that. I got the t-shirt, same thing, it's all about the drive. Right. You have the drive. First, you need the drive. 2, you need to just get to work. And once you do both of those, somebody will notice and they'll help you.
Yeah.
And, and there's people that have one, like Paul Phillips and them, they love helping new shooters. That's what we do, But we don't. It's like anything else, man. You like helping the ones that want to help themselves. You don't want to have to sit there and argue with the person you're trying to help, and debate whether your system works or not. You want them. You want to help them. You want to tell them what to do, and you want them to go and do it to the best of their abilities. But yeah, obviously you're doing good. You're doing a good job. You have the right connections, and it shows.
Appreciate it, man. I love it. I love doing it with the people. And I'll tell you this: like the team. We go to, Conquer or King or something. We go take shotguns. We shoot around the clays. We go eat, have a few drinks, jump in the pool. So it's fun. It's more than just going grinding and shooting and then just leaving. Like the guys, we hang out, we shoot and part around. It's fun.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right, Henry. Thanks for being here, man. I wish you a lot of success and whatever you do going forward. It's you obviously have the drive and you have the passion, and it's a breath of fresh air to see people like you, because I know that gives others hope and maybe gets them fired up and say, you know what, I think the time is now. I'm gonna go ahead and just try it.
It can be done. Yeah, if you love it and you want to do it and you truly do it, you can do it.
All right, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.